Oh hey, didn't see you there. But since I got you here, I want to take a minute to tell you our sponsors for today's video. Top Down Decoys, Papa Earl Seasoning, True Dave Gear, and Knives by Nuge. If you want high quality products at great prices, go check them out in the links below. What's up guys? Today I'm going to be starting the series I've been talking about forever that I haven't actually done yet about the Federal What's up guys? Awkward hand movements here because I don't know what to do with them, and today I'm starting that series I've been talking about, Federal Waterfowl Stamps. So, as listeners of the podcast know, my grandfather passed away earlier this year, and he left behind a lot of things that have to do with the hunting community and the history of hunting and things like that. So, to kind of pay homage to him, I want to go through some of that stuff, and this first series is going to be on the Federal Waterfowl Stamps. The earliest one I have is the 1957-1958 Federal Waterfowl Stamp, and that's the one we're going to be covering today. So, as I said 2 seconds ago for you, and 10 minutes ago for me, because this is the 8th time I've recorded this now because I keep forgetting stuff, today's episode is going to be covering the 1957-1958 Waterfowl Stamp. It depicts the Common or American Eider, and it was created by Jackson Miles Abbott. So, just to start off with him, this was actually a really big year for him because not only did he win first place and had the federal stamp all over the country, he also won second place too, so he took home the 2 top spots. I couldn't find a picture of the second one, but I'll have the stamp up on the screen so you guys can see it. And later there's one other piece of artwork that I could find that was his, but it was a mix between him and his brother, so I'll show that on the screen later too and tell you about it. Abbott was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1920, and he started to really develop his passion for the outdoors at an early age. His father was a natural landscape and wildlife painter, and a lot of that bled into Jackson's life. He was very passionate about ornithology, which is the study of birds. He did a lot of the natural landscape paintings and stuff like that, and that's where his picture of the Common or American Eider and the pale-bellied brant came from. So as a young adult, Abbott joined the United States military, and he had a pretty fruitful career there. When he retired as a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Corps of Engineers. He won a Bronze Star for his counter-mine activities, and his artistry played a role in it because he made camouflage, and he made camouflaging structures for the military. His career was so impactful there, Fort Belvoir actually set aside a piece of land, and it's now known as the Jackson Miles Abbott Wetland Refuge. So, not only does that a legacy of his, there's also an event held there every Christmas, which is the annual bird count. I mean, now with Jackson's passing, the National Audubon Society took the torch, and they run it every year to this day. I know I touched on it previously, but outside of his military career, he was an avid bird watcher, ornithologist, and wildlife painter. And something I didn't know about beforehand, I actually don't know a lot of the history of it other than what I've experienced in my personal life. He played a big role in the banning and study of DDT for use because it was impacting the bald eagle population. Now, many of you listeners live around our area and are around the same age. When we were younger, there wasn't really all that many bald eagles, and that was still a product of DDT being used and the hatches being bad, like not hatching. I think it had something to do with the wall structure of the shell, and it was something along the lines of that. But now there's bald eagles everywhere. Like behind my parents' house, there's 3 back there now. There's a bunch out on the marsh, and he played a really key role in that. So because he watched birds and, painted birds and stuff like that, after the hatching season for bald eagles, he would go look at the nests, and any eggs that weren't hatched he would take and send to a lab and have them tested for DDT. and they brought his evidence, as long as there's many other people that contributed to this. With all of that evidence, they actually got DDT banned. So it was a very positive thing for the bald eagle in the United States. So after taking everything upstairs, I realized that there was a piece I forgot because I misclicked the record button. So I'm back down here with a different hat. On the screen here, I wanted to show the other artwork that I found from Jackson Miles Abbott. This, like I said before, this is the one that was partially him and partially his brother, and this is the only other artwork I can find from him. So it's going to be up on the screen, and now we're going to roll back into what I already recorded. Unfortunately, in a tale as old as time, cancer got another good one. He passed in 1988, but his legacy still lives on today with the Jackson Miles Abbott Wildlife Refuge down by Fort Belvoir, as well as the National Audubon Society's Christmas bird count, which he started, his stamp, and his artwork, and his stamp obviously being the thing that introduced me to him and had me do research on him. So he has a very good legacy that lives on today. So this second part is going to be a lot more familiar to OG podcast listeners, Marshies, if you will. Whew, God, I really hope that doesn't actually become a thing. But this second half, I'm going to do kind of my bird report thing with the interesting facts and all that. So we're going to jump into that now. So I remember early on when I used to do the bird reports, this fact would always surprise me because I never expect birds to have the lifespan that they do. So the common or American Eider actually lives up to 20 years in the wild. Their mortality rate for younger birds is higher, as well as eggs due to predation and environmental factors, but they have a very, very high annual survival rate between 80 and 95%. So a lot of the birds that we see out sea duck hunting and whatnot, and I'll get into this a little bit later as well, are probably the same birds we've seen years past, and they'll probably continue to be the same birds we see. But depending on who you ask, the American Eider is actually the U.S.'s largest duck. Unless you want to count the Muscovy duck down south, that would technically be the largest, but if you don't count that one, it's the American Eider. Full grown, they're between 24 and 27 inches long. So they're pretty big ducks. And every year, probably due to the mortality rate, they lay a lot of eggs. They lay between 4 to 7 eggs, and when they're flying, they can reach speed demon max speeds of 70 miles an hour. So those are just some interesting facts that I found doing my research of this bird. When they're zooming around going like 70 miles an hour or whatever, they have a few pairs together that form a loose colony. And while I was doing my research, I thought this was interesting. When we're out there sea ducking and we see the rafts of them, that's not like a communal safety thing. That's not how they travel. That's actually a feed. So they're diving down between 60 and 65 feet to eat shellfish, mollusks, and other invertebrates, crustaceans. They can eat whole mussels up to 2 inches in length. Obviously, they spit the shell back up, but the fact that they can do that is kind of crazy. I'm not sure where exactly I'm going to insert these parts into the video, but I wanted to show them. I know you can look it up on Google what they look like, but there's some really good pictures in these books that I'm about to show you. This is the National Audubon Society book. This is the birds one. I have a bunch of other ones over there. But there's some really good pictures and really good information if you want to dive a little farther into this after and you happen to own this book. This book in particular I think is invaluable if you're a waterfowl hunter, because it goes into a lot of detail on like where they are, what they eat, blah blah. There's a Common Eider hen, and then I probably can't go too deep on like the words in here because I'm pretty sure it's copyright, but it goes into detail about their life, their range, their their behaviors, stuff like that. And the next book that I wanted to show you is kind of a little less involved with the research. I just think it's neat. I got it from the Tuckerton decoy show that Brian did the call competition for. The game warden actually gave us this, and this is an invaluable book, especially for a newer hunter like me. It's seeing ducks at a distance. But here's this. If you can find one of these books, they're worth their weight in gold, even though they're not very heavy. They're still valuable. This next book helped a little bit with the research, but when I bought it, it didn't go into as much detail as I wanted to. But here's some more pictures of eiders. There's a hen habitat. That's them flying, and all kinds of stuff like that. This book is called Waterfowl of Eastern North America, and it's by Chris G. Early. It is a good book if you want to pick it up. This is actually what I was hoping I would take out with me and try to identify, but duck hunting, there's not a lot of book time. And then this next book, from what I understand, it's known as the Bible for decoy carvers. I know there's an in-color one of this, but this is the one I happen to buy. It's really old. I remember, I think it's from the 40s or 50s was when this was written, and I paid a pretty penny for it. But I wanted to show some of these old carvings that they have of eiders because I thought they were pretty interesting. Eventually I want to try to carve a decoy. That's why I have this thing. But there wasn't really much research that came out of this book in particular. When I was saying earlier that we see the same birds every year, the reason I have that hunch is because in these warmer areas, they don't leave their breeding grounds. They don't go very far. I mean, they obviously go far enough for what they need to do, but it's not a full-blown migration. But the same birds that have to live in these colder climates, like up in the Arctic, they have to move for survival. Like, their breeding grounds aren't the same grounds as their feeding grounds and things like that. So they are partially migratory, I guess you would want to say. The ones around here really aren't, and the ones in the colder area are. So their natural predators vary by location. Their main ones are gulls, mink, and foxes, which gulls I can see them going after their eggs and whatnot, but I can't really see them going after a full-blown bird. Their eggs and the young birds are very susceptible to predators, obviously, because they can't really take care of themselves and they're still learning. They also had some kind of unique predators. They're rare encounters, but they do happen, and I wanted to share them. 3 of them I know, and 1 of them I don't, and I'll explain that part. So their less common predators are ravens, polar bears, and killer whales. I know a lot of us have seen the videos of killer whales smacking birds up off the water. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about. And this next one, at the time of recording this, I haven't looked it up. Go me for research. But are Jaegers. Now, just saying that without any kind of context to what a Jaeger is, I'm picturing the stag on the front of Jägermeister, but I can't really picture bird-eating deer, so that's probably not what it is, but I'll put an image up on the screen of it. Another interesting fact I found about the commoner American Eider is that their down feathers are very, very valuable. Their down feathers are very good insulators because of the microstructure of the feathers, actually surpassing synthetic and natural materials. It traps a lot of air and it traps a lot of warmth. And the collection of the feathers, while very intensive, is also ethical. So after the birds get up and leave, they go in and collect up the down that's on the ground from each nest. It takes about 50 to 70 nests to get 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of feathers, and I'm sure the conditions aren't great as well. So it's kind of a very intensive process. Ignore the trash truck outside. So that's the end of episode 1, guys. I'm going to wrap this episode up with some housekeeping stuff because this series is going to be a little bit different than other things we've released in the past. So every 5th episode of the series will be released on YouTube, but the other 4 will be released on Patreon. So this episode will be free, episode 6 will be free, episode 11 will be free, but the rest will be locked behind Patreon. We have a lot of good content over there. We have conversations with podcast guests on more taboo or real or crazier questions, and we get the answers over there. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go check it out. Anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate you checking out my pet project, and I'll see you on the next one. Cringe hand thing.